I got a recipe from my sister's father-in-law for spout, which is a French-Canadian dish that's spelt Cipate, C-I-P-A-I-T, but it said spout, and it's a wild game recipe and traditionally made with rabbit or grouse. And when I was looking at a rabbit in the bottom of my freezer this morning, I thought, I'm gonna try his spout recipe. But then I looked at the recipe and I was like, I don't have that, I don't use that, So we're going to take his recipe and I'm gonna show you how I take a recipe and make it my own. And in the end, let's see how it turns out. So, I also added in some carrots and a couple bay leaves that you can see down there, and the broth. And now it's going to get tucked into the oven at just 300 degrees for a couple hours. The recipe says to start with a couple pounds of rabbit or grouse that's deboned in small pieces. Then you peel potatoes. I don't peel potatoes, as you saw. And then take a pound of bacon, cut into small pieces, and brown the bacon. There's very few recipes that I will use a whole pound of bacon on that are this sort of recipe, because bacon is precious. This is when I use ends and pieces and that sort of thing. So I actually used smoked chops ends and pieces, which is kind of like just using a couple pieces of ham. Adds that smokiness to it. So I just browned the rabbit and the ham in bacon fat. Then I added in all my spices. This called for pepper, garlic, sage, whatever seasoning you desire. So you saw everything I added. And then placed the meat in with the bacon. Well, I just did it all together. Added potatoes, celery, onion. I didn't have any celery, but I added the potatoes and the dried onions. And this is when it says to mix the bouillon cubes in water and add them in. I don't use bouillon cubes, I just use broth. And one of the reasons that I added turmeric and celery seed powder are because those are two things that I find really will shape a broth into looking and tasting more like that bouillon that people are going for. The celery seed and then that turmeric adds that coloring. Mix it all up good, bake it at 300 for about 2.5 hours. And it's a good idea to stir it halfway. So, you can add a crust if you want. I don't know if I will. We'll see how I feel later, if I feel like making like a baking powder biscuit type topping. So, this could be a slow cooker recipe. This could be an Instant Pot recipe. But there's something about a Dutch oven slowly baking away that is, one, so dang cozy, and two, it browns things in a different way that you won't get in an Instant Pot, and you won't get in a slow cooker. You'll only get that oomph in a Dutch oven. So that's why I'm doing it. If I wanted to make this and be out, I would have put it in something else, but we're just gonna do it in my beautiful Dutch oven and go from there. Okay, friends. I forgot to update you when I stirred it earlier, but it's not a really saucy dish. Like there isn't, whoa, I just fogged myself up there. There isn't broth left over at the end, and this is how I remember it, that there isn't broth left over. It just cooks it nicely, and I'm excited. I'm gonna first test, see if it needs more salt or pepper, but just a lovely one-pot dish of wild game. Ooh, potatoes perfectly cooked. Pretty dang perfect. See, how's the rabbit? It's a pretty big piece. Go for a smaller piece. Oh, the rabbit fell apart, which is good. Super tender. Okay. I need to put the lid on. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit here and eat this whole dang thing. Goodness, that is delicious.